What I want to talk about today is different ways of thinking. All of you have already read The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. And one of the things about autism thinking is it's into details. You know, the normal mind tends to be into generalities. Autism is a whole lot of little details. Now, autism is a neurological condition that goes all the way from geeks and nerds and geniuses in Silicon Valley to somebody that's going to be, remain nonverbal. It is a true continuum. It's not something you either have it or you don't, like tuberculosis or something like that. Now, I want to explain how thinking is different. I think bottom up. To form a concept, I have to take a whole lot of specific examples and put it into a category. Like, for example, I put all the cats in one category, all the dogs in another category. And when I was a little kid, I originally did it by size. But then when our neighbors got a dachshund, I had to find some visual feature that all the dogs have and none of the cats have. And they all have exactly the same nose. Also, my thinking is sensory-based. It's visual thinking. There's also some other kind of people that are auditory thinkers, not language-based thinkers, but auditory. To understand animals, you've got to get away from language. I want to try to get you thinking in a more sensory way, in a more concrete way. And I'm going to explain how that's going to help solve problems. And in my earlier animal work, I got down in the chutes to see what the cattle were seeing. The movie showed that absolutely beautifully. There'd be a coat on a fence, there'd be a vehicle going by. And when I first started doing that in the early 70s, people thought that was really crazy. They didn't think about what the cattle were seeing. The cattle would balk, so it's like in a bigger whip or a bigger electric prod, and you just push them. I noticed that they would stop and look at a shadow. They would stop and look at a chain hanging down. These are things that are obvious to me. And I've been doing work with cattle handling for 35 years, and I still have to tell people to stop. You're going to have to stop waving that. That drives me absolutely crazy. I have a problem with screening out rapid movement. And this gets into some of the problems I have with sensory things. Rapid movement, cell phone rings over there. Then I pay attention to that, and it takes me much longer to shift back and forth between two different things. Because visual thinking is a little bit slower thinking. People think in words, they can make it really abstract, think really fast. I have to bring the pictures up in my mind. The movie does absolutely great, fantastic job of showing it. There's a scene in there where a whole bunch of horses come up in succession, another scene where a whole bunch of shoes come up in succession. That's exactly how I think. And they actually recreated all my projects absolutely exactly. And then I might as well tell you, it is out on DVD now. Just had to say that. Okay, let's get into some of the specialist kinds of thinking. The thing about people on the autism spectrum, and with some of the other disorders, ADHD, dyslexia, learning problems, there's a tendency to be good at one thing and bad at something else. We got to work on building up the strength. And as a visual thinker, I was very good at building things. That gate that's shown in the first part of the movie that you can open up in the car, I actually built it. I was 15 when I built that. All my thinking is in photorealistic pictures. One of the reasons why I had all these doors that I was going through is without a picture, I can't think. It's bottom up. Now, today, I don't use doors because I have so many experiences, I have so many things I've read that gives me a gigantic internet inside my head that I can surf to compare new things against. So I think in photorealistic pictures, but I'm terrible at algebra. There was nothing there to visualize. I'm finding certain kids absolutely can't do algebra, but they can do geometry and trig. And I think they should be allowed to do geometry and trig instead of algebra. So how did I get through math in the 60s when I went to college? And I got through math because in the 60s it wasn't algebra, thank goodness, or I would have flunked it. It was finite math, matrices, probability, and statistics, doable with a whole lot of tutoring. Now another kind of specialist mind is the pattern thinker, kind of a more abstract visual thinker. Think origami, think chess, think organic chemistry, molecular structures, patterns. These kids often have problems with reading maybe the weak area, or language, English composition. These are your music and math minds. These are the ones that can be good computer scientists, engineers, mathematicians, Visual thinkers, they're going to excel at graphic design, animation, doing all kinds of artwork. What I do is industrial design. See, when you make a product, let's say you take something like an iPod, for example, the industrial designer designs sort of the user experience. The engineers have to design the insides. So this brings up the whole thing of different kinds of minds working together. They complement each other. Industrial designer, engineers, they need to work together. Now a third type is the word thinker. These are often the kids that really enjoy history a lot. They are not a visual thinker. The thing about the autistic mind, it's the same across everybody on the spectrum, is they tend to think in details. It's also bottom up rather than top down. And there's certain kinds of troubleshooting where bottom up thinking can really work. Because one of the things that happens when I think about issues today, I don't think about it in the abstract. I'm not into ideology. I only think about specific things. And then there's another kind of learning problem where the person's an auditory thinker. I had a student that had this problem. She absolutely couldn't draw, couldn't do anything with visual thinking, but she knew she could recognize, she studied animal behavior by listening to the sounds of animals. And I had a graduate student that was good at everything I was bad at. She did a wonderful job just with running the experiment, analyzing the data, but I was good at thinking up the experiments. So you need to have different kinds of minds working together. The movie did a fantastic job of showing my science teacher, and I have to say, the movie gave him an honorary doctorate. And that was one mistake in the script I decided accidentally on purpose not correct, because Mr. Carlock, who was a NASA space scientist, that was true, he got me interested in school. I was goofing around in high school because I just wasn't interested. And then I actually built that distorted room illusion. It took me a long time to build it. I was kind of happy to find out that the stage set department had a hard time building that, even though they had the drawings for it. I'm concerned today in high schools. We don't have enough science teachers to get kids turned on. We got to get kids turned on to doing scientific things. And I went and gave a talk in a big school district one time, great big school district out in Colorado. Had 700 teachers there, high school, and there was only 2 science teachers. And where are the good teachers? Well, they don't want to take all these ed courses. Mr. Carlock wasn't an accredited teacher. He was a NASA space scientist. And some of these people who can be the best science teachers might be a retired engineer, a retired chemist, or something like that, but they don't want to take all those education courses. We need to be changing some of these things. Now I want to get into solving problems today. I am really concerned. I'm very concerned about what I call abstractification. Our government's turned into a total mess where all they do is fight. It's turned into all ideology. You want to get, a lot of students want to get interested in issues, they want to become a lawyer. But lawyers don't actually fix things. They just kind of do obstructions. We got to get back to fixing stuff. And I'm a child of the 50s. And back in the 50s, boy, we were doing some great stuff. The Republicans built the interstate highway system. Do you think that'd ever get done today? The Democrats went to the moon. We did cool stuff. You know, in the 70s and the 80s, you got all the great silicon startups. That's where you have to have venture capital. You know what venture capital is? Venture capital are investors that put money into startups. In other words, they're putting money into real things. You know, stuff like, you know, Microsoft and Google and things like that. A lot of these things start out as startups. Now, I read something in a business magazine the other day that really made me sick. And I'm very concerned about this future of our country. I read that you can make more money on Wall Street selling derivatives and credit default swaps than you can investing in venture capital. And I think something's really wrong. And being a visual thinker, it took me 2 weeks to figure out of reading the Wall Street Journal, figure out what a derivative and a credit default swap was, and I about threw up when I found out what that is. Because it's gambling away the economy. We need to be putting that money back into real things. We need to get back into doing real stuff. You know, I just couldn't believe it. You know, you take your junk mortgages and you bundle them together, and then you sell them as a security, and then you insure it with a credit default swap. Maybe that, I don't know. I don't have to use any bad language in this thing, but I have real problems with that. We're outsourcing a lot of more and more things. I watched a movie recently. It's called Mr. Despicable, or Despicable Me. It's an animated movie, and boy did they, this is a satire on the banking system. The Bank of Evil funds the ultimate crime projects. Very, very funny movie. And then I got to the credits at the end, and I was very upset. All the animation had been outsourced to France. You know, Germany is a high living standard country, and they've got more manufacturing. You know, we've got to get back to doing things and not just fighting over ideology. You know, what's tended to be happening in this country is you got radical right fighting radical left, all worried about who's going to get elected next. We need to get doing things. And we should have taken some of that stimulus money and put it into building infrastructure 2 years ago. Let's get back into the things department. I am absolutely appalled as I travel around the United States looking at the budget cutbacks to state universities. I don't care what state we're going to, we're eating our seed corn. You know what eating seed corn is. You eat your seed corn, you got nothing to plant, the next year. Really concerns me. Now let's get on to an issue like health care. Well, you've got all the politicians out there fighting, but I see specific examples. I watched a 60 Minutes show where some people that normally set up clinics in developing countries decided to set one of these up at the Knoxville Convention Center in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's a free medical clinic. Every kind of doctor you could imagine. Anything you want, you could go in there. The first like few thousand people could get it for free. And they had to bring out the National Guard to keep the convention center from being stormed. And guess which services they use the most? Dentists and really serious eyeglasses. I'm not talking about reading glasses, I'm talking about, real thick things you can't see with anything else. I've read things about people pulling, should use a root canal and they pull the tooth out with pliers. I know a girl who broke her foot and couldn't afford to have an x-ray. You see, I see these specific examples. It's not abstract to me. Every time I go to a convention center, what I tell you, the Emmys was fun, and they had a governor's ball in the convention center, and I look up at the rafters that look like this. Every time I see that kind of roof, that's a convention center roof, I think about the New Orleans Convention Center, and what that must have been like, what it must have smelled like, hot it was, what a miserable thing this hole was. And who were the people that went out and rescued everybody? They were the sporting boaters. They were just people that had their own boat, people that did things. So I want to kind of end up in saying, we've got to get back in this country to doing real stuff. Let's make venture capital, and let's get doing some venture capital and put money back into getting this country doing stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grandin, for those really wonderful and so important remarks. It's a great pleasure on behalf of the entire Pace community to present you with the Silver Medal of Pace University to commemorate your appearance here and your commitment to our century-old tradition of opportunitas and innovation. On the back of this medal is inscribed, you are an inspiration to all of us, and you certainly are. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grandin. I guess we got our marching orders, folks. As you go through your classes, think about how you can do stuff. And as you've just heard, there are no obstacles to what we can all do and what we can become.